I am so excited today to interview Shana Meyerson for the summit. A little bit about Shana. I became a Bikram teacher, and then I thought, I don't want to do this. I want to teach kids. My daughter was 4 at the time. And I connected with her. She advertised in the LA Yoga magazine, and she had this teacher training. And I remember calling you. It was right at the beginning. And you said, well, I don't know if I'll have enough people, but you can sign up anyway. And I was like praying, oh my gosh, I hope she does. And thank God she did. And that was my introduction to teaching yoga to kids. I really like kids, special ability kids. I coached Special Olympics for 2 or 3 years. And then when I had my own daughter, I got too busy. But Shana, just her training, it really prepares you to teach kids. And I went on myself to be trained people to become kids yoga teachers, but it prepares you to. And she had work right away for me, and I just went out and took everything. So I really like her story because it is so inspirational. It is like you went with your intuition as to what you wanted to do. So please tell the story about how you got into yoga.
Yeah, it was. I do believe that in order to succeed in this life, yoga or otherwise, you really need to sort of be receptive to, for lack of a better term, the messages of the universe. So I was blindsided by yoga. I went to yoga kicking and screaming because I had broken a pinky toe, and I was such an intensive, like, gym rat cross trainer, and I couldn't do anything. I'm like, I'll try this stupid yoga thing. And so I tried yoga, and the second I walked in, I just immediately had such a visceral reaction. I knew immediately that this was my calling. Now, I don't believe that everybody who loves everything has a calling for it. There's a difference between loving something and imparting it to others. In fact, when I graduated college, my goal was to screenwrite, and I worked in script development, which was basically rewriting other people's screenplays, right? And I never was willing to quit my job and throw all my eggs in the screenwriting basket. It was always something I did on the side. But when yoga came along, there was no question. I mean, so many people are like, oh, like you were lucky to find this, or you took a chance. Everyone says that. You took such a big chance. I'm like, it didn't feel like a risk. It didn't even feel like a question. It felt like an imperative. And I knew I had to leave my job. I knew I was getting my MBA at UCLA. I left school, which is not the kind of thing that I would normally do. And again, it wasn't a question. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like jumping off a cliff. It just felt like something that I needed to do. I didn't know if I would ever earn another dollar. I did.
Yes. Very successful business.
Yeah, and this was very early on. I didn't even know that much about yoga. I wasn't like by far the expert that I am today. But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, but when you just quit your job and then you started teaching kids yoga, and all of a sudden things happened. And didn't you wrote the app for P90X too, or you helped?
Right. So that was this like sent from God message that was like, you're doing the right thing. I had been doing interactive writing for like online learning, and I literally a week after I left my job, and I taught yoga for free for 3 months. Anybody who wants yoga anywhere in Southern California, I'm there. Yeah. I was driving from Laguna Beach to Malibu to, Hollywood. I was just everywhere. Free. Of course, that was not sustainable in the long run, but a week after I decided this was my new life. I got a call from a past associate who is now at Beachbody, and they said, "Can you write the app for P90X?" And or rewrite the app for, I don't even remember if I rewrote it or wrote it at this point, quite honestly. And I'm like, sure. And the beauty of writing, right, is that you could do it at 2 a.m. You could do it at noon. You could do it anytime you want, which means I could teach yoga whenever I wanted, right? And so what happened was that almost to the day, from the day I started this writing assignment to the day I finished, when I finished, I was earning as much at yoga as I had been earning before all this started. And it was like God literally just took me in his hands and said, "I'm going to make this transition really easy for you because I do not want you to question this calling." So it was pretty miraculous.
That's awesome. And what I really want to talk about is Shana referred me several clients over the years, and I taught at the Wiseburn School District. That was fun. We had a lot of phone calls from, remember, the parents of Yanni, I believe his name was. But I don't know if you knew this, but a lot of the kids that were in there were like, it's called a pink slip, meaning that if their kids don't do well in school or they got pulled out and they go back to their other school district. So I had
Okay, got
four of those boys in my class.
Oh, wow.
And it was interesting, but that was a really
Right.
good experience. And I learned a lot about the school district, and I learned a lot about everything. But one client in particular, his name is Casey.
Yeah.
And he really was instrumental in growth for me on gratitude, because here is this kid that, he talks with an eye gaze Toby, and here's this kid that he's in a wheelchair, he can't use his voice, but here's this kid that is so grateful to be alive. And he really helped me to get out of my head, because we had a connection that was it was so strong. And when my brother passed away, he was just instrumental, and like, he was very sad about it, and but what Casey brings, I mean, he's a playwright. He wrote this beautiful play, and it was hysterical. And he just had everybody's character down, and he really was a good judge of character. And, he and I bonded right away. The first month was a little rough, but then the connection was just so strong. And a lot of times when we do the breathing, and he really liked to laugh a lot. So we had the laughing yogi come over, but we connected because Casey has a sense of humor that is unlike any other kid. And he's so quick, and he gets so many things. And, I remember we would play music, and I'd have him do the yoga and stuff, but then he would have me go beyond and make him laugh, because laughter was really, really important to him.
Yeah.
And that is how we connected. And there were so many aha moments that I had with him. And I wanted to, he's 21 years old now. I think I started when he was about 8 or 9. I think.
Yeah.
He was little. And, I remember his grandpa was over one time, and he did the yoga with us, which was really
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, he was really into it. And so, but yeah, I had a playlist for him and everything. So,
Yeah.
and then he sent me to a lot of schools, but teaching kids yoga and really connecting with kids. It's about the yoga, but it's also about the kids connecting with you and trusting you and feeling your love and your energy. It's just, I mean, a lot of times, I didn't realize this, but there was a kid that was in one of my classes, and it was in Point Vicente, and I don't even know why his parents put him in. He was running around. He'd say it was stupid, and this was like, no.
Right.
So I pulled him aside, and I said, look, if you do one thing for me, get up 5 minutes early and sit and be quiet and use your breath, the breath that I've taught you, just use that, and just be still, and don't let any negative thoughts come in. I know this class may not be your jam, but anyway, long story short, 10 years later, comes up to me in Trader Joe's and I'm like, do I know you? And he goes, you taught me to meditate.
I love that.
30 minutes he was up to. So
Nice.
share with me too some of, your experiences with. There's so many, right?
Yeah, I've worked with so many hundreds of kids at this point. I honestly, I'm a private instructor, so I work one-on-one, and my focus for quite a few years now, probably easily a decade, has been special needs. And it's funny because so many people are reluctant or afraid to work with special needs. But as you say, it really is the greatest growth experience that you can have, is to work with a child who, it doesn't matter if they can do a handstand, it matters if they can stand on their own 2 feet and figure out life for themselves. I have a boy that I've been working with for 5 years. The sweetest human I think I've ever met.
Yeah.
And when he came to me, and the reason primarily he came to me was he had massive, massive social anxieties, just completely, literally petrified to talk to anyone, not even just to start a conversation. I think it's a little hard to start conversations, but he was petrified to talk, like to reply if someone talked to him, And this boy was the kindest hearted. I say was because transformation, it's like he's not even the same human anymore. I have to think of him as 2 different people, because he's just not this boy. But he was 8, and his heart was so pure that the thing he valued most in life was kindness. Mm-hmm. And so he literally had made this psychological jump from people don't talk to me, which really was, I don't talk to people, but he didn't see it that way because he was afraid of them. From people don't talk to me to they must hate me to if they hate me, I must not be a nice person. Mm-hmm. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
The nicest boy. And in fact, I had him do this project where we had a piece of paper. I said, I want you to write down all nice things about yourself. Mm-hmm. You could write, I'm nice, I'm smart, I'm whatever. And I want you to pick, awesome, terrific, any words that you want. Let's come up with all the words of how you're so great. So we wrote a bunch of words, and then he crossed them all out and started crying and started writing the opposite. And I'm like, wow. This is where he was coming from. My first few classes with him were more therapy. He was crying and crying and crying. One day, I know I've shared this story with you, but one day he was talking about how hard it was to talk to the other kids or connect with the other kids, and how they must think he's really mean. And he made the heart symbol with his hands, because I said, how does that make you feel? And he couldn't even talk. He started crying, and then he went like this and broke the heart apart. Oh. And it took everything I had not to just completely lose it myself at that point. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, within 1 year, this boy made not just a friend, because we started with just, let's talk to somebody, find somebody who you think you could share something with, mm-hmm. to actually a whole group of friends.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories.
Yeah. So many of us never even have a group of friends in life, but like a real group that did play dates. He had his first sleepover at like 10, and now, it's funny because he's such an accomplished young man, as an athlete, as a scholar, but the thing he's most proud of is his friends.
Awesome. Shana, that's just, you've got to feel amazing.
It's not all me. I'm not going to be like, I, did everything for this boy, but we worked so hard to get to that place. Mm-hmm. that's where like there's this weird convergence of the power of yoga and the philosophy of yoga and the breathing and the meditation and then the real life application. Believe me, this kid, he's also my most advanced student. He's jumping into handstands and doing all sorts
Gee,
of crazy stuff. It's
wow.
not like we're not doing the work of the asanas, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I can tell you another thing, and this is something I've
Yeah.
experienced with a lot of children, but particularly him, because his self-esteem was so, I've
Low.
never seen such low self-esteem in my life,
Mhm.
especially from a kid like him who just had everything going for him. Um, that I forgot what I was going to say.
His self-esteem was low and
Yeah. Oh my
that,
goodness.
yeah.
What we had to work on with frustration tolerance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, that's usually something more for special needs kids. But in the beginning, if I asked him to do something that he couldn't do, and this is a big thing with me, I always ask people to do things they can't do because you cannot grow living in your comfort zone,
No,
period.
no way.
Yeah. So every time I gave him something that he couldn't do the first time, I'm like, we have to work on stuff. We need to learn patience and perseverance. He would start crying.
Mm-hmm.
He would literally get angry with me.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't talk to me. And this boy and I, like,
Yeah.
were like this, but he would like turn on me, like, you are the devil and you
Yeah.
are my enemy. And I'm like, this is what we're going to work on. We're going to stay calm. There are things that matter in life and things that don't. What matters is the effort you're going to put into this.
Mm-hmm.
What doesn't is the result, because it's going to come, but it might come next time. And it might come in a month.
Yes.
And so this boy who just completely closed down anytime I gave him a challenge evolved into a kid that's like, bring it on. And sometimes, he would hit a wall and I'm like, should we modify? And he's like, no, I'm going to do this. Right. And it was like, okay, let's do it, because I didn't want to push him over an edge. That wasn't my goal, but that was definitely another thing we really had to work on.
Yeah.
So he's just my greatest transformational story in every aspect of who he was when I met him and who this extraordinary child is today.
Shana, I love that story. And I just want to thank you again for your time. And thank you again for all the awesome clients and the opportunities you gave me to really grow into a really good teacher. I know a lot of times I was your first choice. And I was honored. Like I remember you sent me to a very traditional religious house and I was like, we didn't do that. No, we did the yoga, right. But they were more into let's breathe. And they were young, but they were very advanced. They really wanted the breathing, they were a great group of girls. But I just go ahead.
No, I have to thank you for being so instrumental in being a part of mini yogis in those early days.
Oh yeah.
And I've always had a large staff to choose from, but there's no doubt that I'm like, if Amy wants the class, it's Amy's.
I mean, I'm a born teacher and I think you are too. And I get more joy from teaching meditation, seeing kids take strides. And then that's grown into life coaching about mindset and about, people that do have ADHD or they felt misunderstood. I can relate. I really can relate. And anxiety and depression. And, a lot of people look at it as a disability. That's a superpower because when you've experienced rocky times, you're coming out of your comfort zone, right? And you've got
absolutely.
And I've had my share, and I know everybody listening has probably as well. But I'm not going to get into my story because I don't live there anymore. But I am so honored that you came on, and Shana, thank you so much. And the information will be your Facebook and Instagram, and all your social media will be there. And if people want to contact you and reach out, I know you gladly take the call. Correct?
Thank you so much. Yes, I return every email and every phone call, usually within a few hours, but definitely within.
And I know that because when I wouldn't return emails, you would get mad at me. I'm like, oh, I just kind of tuned out for a while there. Okay. And I do that sometimes. So thank you again, Shana. And I want to
Thanks,
thank the audience
Amy.
for tuning in, and have an awesome day, everybody. Bye.
Have an awesome day. Namaste.